Well, hello. It's always a pleasure for me to be here with all of you. And well, as you know, today is St. John's Day, and I apologize that this lecture will be more about technology than either St. John's Day or the recent Festival of Whitsun. But as we explore the meaning of artificial intelligence in human evolution, we will find a somewhat hidden relationship of technology to these festivals. I have been blessed to have been with you two previous times here in Bucharest for Easter and for Christmas. And that's not counting the presentations I gave during my first and only so far physical visit to Bucharest back in March of 2024. Here you see a bust of the main character for our lecture, Mr. Ahriman. Who is Ahriman? In anthroposophy, we speak not about the devil, but about two tempting forces on either side of what the human being is divinely ordained to become. Ahriman engenders in us fear, hatred, and doubt. You will find all three of these arising in you as I deliver this talk. When we try to overcome these three, we tend to run to the arms of Lucifer. On one side, Lucifer tells us that the earthly life is disgusting and evil, so we should leave it for a blissful life within his realm, where we will be moral beings, albeit moral automatons. Some who answer Lucifer's call will be tempted to call Lucifer's realm heaven. That other tempting force, known as Ahriman, wishes for us to deny our cosmic heritage and to declare that the only thing that matters is the here and now, this life, my aim, my I am is what matters. And the physical is the only known reality. Everything else is fantasy that can be safely and enjoyably explored with psychedelics. Ahriman says, find your heaven here on earth. With Christ in us, we are spiritual beings of love and freedom. Then Lucifer casts himself down from his place of pride while Ahriman sinks into subnature below the surface of the earth, where he knows his place is. Since both Lucifer and Christ have had their incarnation in the flesh, we now approach that necessary moment in evolution when Ahriman must have his incarnation. We must realize that in the course of evolution, Ahriman has gifts for humanity that we must receive or wrest from Ahriman. AI and robotic technology are two of these gifts. My goal is to give you the ability through knowledge to transform your fears, hatreds, and doubts into a doorway through which you, with equanimity, can become a preparer of the divinely intended future to be truly a representative of man. Steiner often spoke about Michael's great victory over the spirits of darkness in 1879. These were the same spirits who succeeded in 1250 to seal off the spiritual world. God had asked them to do this deed so that humans could truly develop freedom. Then a battle began in 1841 and lasted until 1879. During this period, Science, as we know it, began to flourish on the foundation of materialism. These spirits were driven from their heavenly home into that dreaded place called human consciousness. What are they supposed to do? Rejoice? Certainly not. Today, they seek to move evolution from where they are in a direction suitable for them. Of course, where might this lead if they are successful? What has happened since Michael's victory in 1879? Where is this going? Does Michael's victory make life more miserable for us? Is time speeding up? Is this new rate of change too much for us? Can we petition Michael? Hey, slow it down. After all, he is the time spirit. Let us have an easier, less stressful, and more enjoyable life. In his Whitsun lecture of the 7th of May, 1923, Steiner tells us the human physical body actually reached completion of bodily evolution by the middle of the Atlantean epoch. And since then, its path of evolution has been on the decline. There was a second peak of evolution during the Greek cultural age, when the etheric body first fully entered the physical body. This was a time of bodily health and perfection. Now that we've entered the age of freedom, we can certainly modify our body to make it what? Less perfect? We are well into the time of the decline of the physical body, a kind of old age for our era when we incarnate. This is the time when the etheric body must loosen from the physical. As it does, there will be many effects. Consciousness will change. I will see myself as two genders, one of my physical body and one of my etheric body. We are already seeing poor body health among the youth who are having issues once thought of as old age issues. As our etheric body loosens, our Greek perfection of the body, soma, comes to an end. It will take wisdom and effort going forward to have a healthy physical body, for our consciousness soul must play a role. Can tech be used to help overcome bodily disabilities? Some of us here may have an artificial knee or hip. Let's look at a real case of this man who received a brain implant. He has ALS, a neurodegenerative disease that ruined his speech. 5 years into symptoms, he underwent surgery to implant 256 silicon electrodes in a brain region controlling movement. Researchers at UC Davis then began collecting data on his brain activity as he worked to say various words. Important here is what these researchers call the phantom body, or what anthroposophy calls the etheric body. His mind must have the faith that it can still use his organs of speech. What you are about to see, you could see a video, I'm only going to show pictures, can be called a miracle, for it has allowed him to speak instantaneously and expressively, and even to sing. Here he is trying to speak. See his human reaction to hearing his own voice speaking for the first time in over 8 years. The system known as BrainGate 2 managed to translate neural signals into words in 10 milliseconds. This has enabled fluid conversations most of the time, with a goal to have natural conversation even in multiple languages. Through recordings of their prior voice, the system can imitate this former voice to the delight of family and friends. Most importantly, it allowed this man to rejoin life and community. So here, BCI starts, brain computer interfaces, by helping people with disabilities. Can you tell this person, no, don't do that? As it becomes better and better, and our bodies become more and more withered, will it work its way into general use? When we are driving a car, we see other cars moving on the road. After a bit of observation, we can tell something about the character of the driver of another car, even though we cannot see the driver. Now add remote control to this so that the driver might not be in the car. It may be autonomous. Will these soulless beings exist? As evolution progresses, will cars and bodies merge? After all, our physical bodies are but a vehicle for the soul, for earthly life and development. Already, robots are doing many tasks for us. Do any of you own a robotic vacuum cleaner? I suspect a popular gift at a future baby shower will be a nanny bot. All the girlfriends will pool their money to buy their pregnant girlfriend a nanny bot. Later, this nanny bot can have a software download to become Play School Bot. Later, it becomes Teacher Bot or Tutor Bot. All during these years, mom or dad will be able to jump into the bot to see how everything is going. Of course, such nanny bots will need AI. In general, there will be robots in our daily lives, and these will be endowed with AI as well as direct connection to the highest speed internet available in our future smart cities and towns. There are many jobs some consider to be inhumane jobs. Will we serve humanity if we turn such jobs over to robots? What will those people do who lose these jobs and are unskilled for other work? Will a time come when any manual labor will be unthinkable for the average human? What happens to our physical body if it no longer labors? Amazon CEO Andy Jassy said that generative AI is changing the workflow of businesses. He went on to say that in addition to efficiency gains, he expects that AI would mean white collar job cuts. Amazon CEO Andy Jassy then offered a blunt new message about AI. It is going to reduce the workforce in the next few years. As robotics will trim blue collar jobs, AI will trim white collar jobs by making the remaining workers way more productive. The only humane answer I can see is threefolding. We need to be exploring and implementing trials of threefolding today. Does AI harm critical thinking abilities? A new study from the researchers at MIT's Media Lab has returned some concerning results. Their study divided 54 subjects, 18 to 39-year-olds from my area, Boston, into three groups and asked them to write several essays. Now, one group got to use OpenAI's ChatGPT. The second group could use Google's search engine, while the third group wasn't allowed to use any of those. The old-fashioned, write them out. Not surprisingly, the ChatGPT users had the lowest brain engagement, even after the study. Over the course of several months, ChatGPT users got lazier with each subsequent essay, many resorting to mere copy and paste by the end of the study. The paper suggests that the usage of large language models, AI, harms learning, especially for younger users. Developing brains are at high risk, concluded the paper's main author, Natalia Kosmina. MIT is not alone. Carnegie Mellon and Microsoft found in a joint study that heavy chatbot use appears to almost atrophy critical thinking skills. And a few months later, The Guardian found an analysis of studies like the one that researchers here shown are growing increasingly concerned that tech like ChatGPT is making us stupider. Oh, and here you see those studies. Sorry. Driving a car is dangerous. You knew not to give the keys to the car to any of your kids until you knew that they were mature enough and skilled enough. If we do that with a car, should we do that with AI devices? With this talk, we shall take what we've learned and broaden our understanding with a picture of where our human evolution should be headed. As you know, the clairvoyance of the past cannot bring us to our goal in evolution. The materialism we are swimming in today is sliding us down into what Steiner called subnature. Eventually, we do need to hand over the keys, as you will subsequently hear. But is AI our only offspring? Who else wants to drive our car? You will now hear about our harmonic double, which is key to understanding the advent of AI and the times in which we live, as well as being able to be worthy preparers of the future. Artists have a long time felt that in our body, we are not alone. Robert Louis Stevenson, for example, felt it in his character Dr. Jekyll. It was one of Rudolf Steiner's great revelations that he described the harmonic double as he did in Lecture 2 of the Psychogeographic Medicine. In this talk, I will try to answer common questions about this harmonic double. What is it? How does it affect us? When did it become joined to us? Why must we deal with it? If we must, then for how much longer? And finally, what is the cosmic purpose of all of this? Some might be wondering, if we have an harmonic double, do we also have a luciferic double? The answer is yes. But in our age, it is the harmonic double with whom most of us, rather, I should say, all of us, will be intimately engaged. Let's talk about some of this double's characteristics. Steiner described them as having a very high intelligence, having a significantly developed will, yet having no warmth of heart at all, no soul warmth, or what in German is called Gemüt. They come from below nature. And one of them is joined to you for your whole life. Yes, in your physical body. It happens just before birth, and they leave just before death. They would prefer that we not die, that the physical body will exist forever as their body. During the evolution of our physical body, they wove into it electricity and magnetism, which our physical sensory system now uses. Early in Earth evolution, they wanted to conquer the Earth, but for this, they needed bodies. Instead, they were put into our body to share it. but they did not have bodies of their own, for it was for us to be on the human stage of earth, not them. As we'll see, they gained access to human bodies. Early in Earth evolution, they were placed, as I said, into these human bodies. The Manichaean legend of the battle of light and dark makes this understandable. This comes from the temple legend. I'll read it. The forces of dark sought to overcome the forces of light, but their attack came to naught. Now the light kingdom was to respond, but there was nothing in their character that could become a punishment, for there was only love and goodness. So they took something of their own and mixed it into the darkness. This became a vortex into which death fell. This light that was mixed into the darkness was us. Well, I should say the archetype of the human. This is another version of the fall of man. What does this mean about our destiny with the darkness? Might we have a role in the redemption of darkness? The Ahrimanic double is the creator of all illnesses that emerge spontaneously from within us. The Luciferic double is the creator of all neurotic type illnesses. The double promotes the concept that we're just a superior animal, that we have no free will, and our thinking is merely a programmed response to stimuli. They would like for us to extend materialism to the operations of the universe, to a belief that it operates merely mechanically. When one comes to the threshold between physical and spiritual existence, one meets the lesser guardian. In our age, this lesser guardian has an Ahrimanic quality, a lot like our double. This guardian is there to reveal our own inner condition that prevents us from entering the spiritual world. It shows its Ahrimanic qualities in our willing, in that we fear higher spiritual beings, in our feeling, in that we mock the spiritual, and in our thinking, in that we doubt there is any power to a spiritual being. What does our double in our age tell us? You're just a superior animal. Now extend materialism as the only true knowledge. Paint the universe mechanical. If you do try to seek a spiritual path at the threshold, you will meet its impact in your soul as that lesser guardian. Steiner also described how the double, when placed in a human body, feels itself as a being full of pain and suffering. They desire a body of sub-nature to exist for them in the physical. It is painful for them to be in a body that stands upright. Lucifer had an incarnation in human form in China 5,000 years ago. Christ had his incarnation in the Earth's geographical middle 2,000 years ago. Now, early in this millennium, there will be a Western incarnation of Ahriman. Yes, in human form. Yes, in the flesh, or what's left of it. As there were three crucified on Golgotha's, Christ's incarnation has cosmically occurred between the incarnations of Lucifer and Ahriman. With that equanimity we heard about in a verse earlier, we must see the cosmic necessity to balance Lucifer's influence in the soul with the impending Ahrimanic incarnation. Only through Lucifer did we attain the wisdom to recognize the deed of Christ. The gifts from Lucifer belong to supernature, while the gifts from Ahriman teach us about subnature. Restoring cosmic balance was Christ's deed on Golgotha upon the physical plane. Christ's appearance in the etheric gives us the strength today to face Ahriman in subnature. Lucifer tries to prevent mankind from diving down into the sphere where the Ahrimanic power must be overcome. Christ can stand in such a way as to keep Lucifer and Ahriman apart. The symbol of this balance can be found in the caduceus, where the white and black serpents are present but kept in balance. As the incarnation in the flesh of Ahriman approaches, the double in us will grow stronger. The Ahrimanic beings are expecting to do much more preparation before Ahriman's incarnation. You may be asking, when might this incarnation occur? I put it after Michael's reign, when Ariphael, the archangel of Saturn, becomes the time spirit. To help us meet this challenge, Vulcan beings since 1880 have been entering Earth evolution, not into physical bodies, but into our human consciousness. Only through spiritual science can we meet and understand them, and this we must do for earthly evolution. We've heard about bodily evolution and that it's in its decline. In these sedentary times of ours, our physical body has begun to wither. The double will inspire us to replace those withering body parts. Today, we have heart pacers, hearing aids, and joint replacements. What's next? Will our bodies wither sooner or later? What about our organs? Is everything replaceable as transhumanists believe? If so, what makes us human? This question must arise because, as Steiner described it, we are entering in cosmic evolution our old age. Our double wants for cold connections to others and to life and to earth. Some fear artificial intelligence will drive out our gamut. Today's AI, or narrow artificial intelligence, will become tomorrow's artificial general intelligence, and that will later become artificial super intelligence, or ASI, that some claim will be deployed between 2030 and 2050. As a result, we can ask, will our intelligence evolve for the better or for the worse? Will we bring gamut into our thinking? Will we have heart thinking? And how limited is our love? Let me also say a time will come when our sense of ego will be needed to distinguish humans from humanoids. Now, for a short pause to enjoy some humor. The words in this comic are, "Oh, yeah? Well, I'd rather be a living corpse made from dismembered body parts than a hunchbacked little grave robber like you." You may be asking, how can one see the future when it has not yet happened? Some may be wondering, if one speaks of predestination, then where is human evolution? We can see properly the spiritual events of the past. Then, and if we can, then we can, with spiritual science, know when these events need to be fulfilled to stay on the evolutionary path divinely set for mankind. That is to say, some future events are a cosmic necessity. One of those spiritual events of the past that needs to be fixed in the future was the extrusion of the moon. It is established by moon rocks that our moon must have come from the earth. The current theory is that there was a collision with a smaller planet, and this caused the ejection of the material that has become the moon. Of course, the description by Steiner is different, and it involved higher beings. This diagram shows the descent and ascent of human evolution. What entered evolution as a spiritual impulse must be completed in a later period. In this sense, what entered during the Hyperborean epoch must be completed then in the sixth epoch. At the time when the moon withdrew from the earth during Lemuria, humans were hermetophytes at that time. There followed a transition period of thousands of years until the start of sexual procreation in the middle of the Atlantean epoch. This spiritual impulse had a purpose, and so it will come to an end, and it will during the current fifth epoch. And within that, in the sixth cultural age. The whole of our post-Atlantean cultural evolution finds its meaning when humanity has evolved through the physical world where we are to develop new talents. As we so evolve, the danger is that we may lose sight of the way forward. Now, the fall of man into the physical was a necessity as the result of Lucifer's temptation. Because of the nature of the physical, we could develop our ego within an environment in which everything was separate. But the Elohim had no relationship to the physical as we know it, and nor to the subphysical. Other beings had to be brought into human evolution to bring this about. Here we see the three planes within which a human ego is sheathed, plus the subphysical. The original intent of those divine beings leading humanity was for us to descend as shown. But because of the fall, our descent had to be altered to take us much deeper into the physical and even into the sub-physical, where the beings we meet expand. The following Steiner quote from The World of the Senses and the World of the Spirit will help us to grasp this intention of the gods. Quote, "So you see, man is really a being who has undergone a great coarsening in his nature. For were he, as he was originally intended in the purposes of the gods, he would have no bones. Rather, his form would consist in supersensible imaginary bones. He would have no muscles to serve as an apparatus for movement, but he would have supersensible substance moving within him. Increasingly, we will need to loosen our etheric from our physical body. This will move us forwards towards the evolved archetype that we are to become. To become spiritual beings, the new angels, we must leave behind what has coarsened in us. It is our cosmic duty to complete what came earlier. Steiner mentions that sexual procreation will end about the year 5700, but birth rates are already tumbling. Spiritual preparations are underway for this dramatic change. In The Fall of the Spirits of Darkness, Steiner discusses this future and mentioned that from about 5000 AD to 8000 AD, we will need to rely on those fallen angels who did not graduate from the human stage on Old Moon. The cherubim bring harmony, and they grant each being its beneficial role, including these fallen spirits of darkness. It will be the gifts from Ahriman's incarnation that will be used to get us through this difficult future period. But were these gifts, well, but these gifts will only lead to destruction, albeit a necessary destruction of our physical existence through the war of all against all, to move us on to an etheric existence for the sixth epoch. This timeline shows future events. In red, we see the start and end dates for the coming post-Atlantean cultural ages. In green, the start of the sixth epoch. I've tried to indicate approximately where some future events will occur. Because of Ahriman's incarnation in the West, the seeds for the seventh post-Atlantean cultural age will be sown in the Americas. Toward the end of this seventh cultural age, as humans ascend to new existence without a physical body, more and more doubles will have bodies to take over, to take the keys and leap into the driver's seat. An answer to this picture of the future can be found in many lectures by Steiner. Here is one from the influences of Lucifer and Ahriman. The very contrast between the Ahrimanic and the Luciferic will enable them to perceive the third reality. Human beings must consciously wrestle through to an understanding of this trinity of the Christ impulse, the Ahrimanic, and the Luciferic. For without this consciousness, they will not be able to go forward into the future with the prospect of achieving the goal of Earth existence. In each of these planetary conditions, and the previous ones, old Saturn, old Sun, old Moon, all had administrators, and you can see the future ones. When Ahriman lagged behind, the Caryatides were the administrators of Old Sun. When Lucifer lagged behind, the Dynamis were the administrators in Old Moon. As you know, all three will have an incarnation in the flesh as a human. There will be some humans who are unable to consciously leave behind the physical realm and enter life in the etheric. They will then become part of those who go through the second fall and take a different path of evolution known as the eighth sphere. Redemption for these humans will remain a possibility, for they will join Jupiter evolution when it recapitulates Earth evolution. Steiner tells us that such a deeper fall can lead to an ever greater good. It is implied that Mani will voluntarily go with those who are separated out and fall into this eighth sphere, so that their evolutionary path is with these Ahrimanic beings. In this perspective, the eighth sphere can be seen as an act of God's mercy. Some of you might be saying, I don't want to reincarnate into a future world so interpenetrated with machines. Being against, being cold, or at least lukewarm about the future will not do. We need to find in our hearts and minds an enthusiasm for the future, as dire as it might sound. So this quote might help you. But if men are able to rouse themselves to take into their consciousness what we have been studying, if they are able to so guide it that humanity can freely confront the Ahrimanic influence, then when Ahriman appears, humans will acquire precisely through him the power to realize that although the earth must enter inevitably into its decline, mankind is lifted above earthly existence through this very fact. When a man has reached a certain age in physical life, his body begins to decline. But if he is sensible, he makes no complaint, knowing that together with his soul, he is approaching a life that does not run parallel with this physical decline. There lives in mankind something that is not bound up with the already prevailing decline of the physical earth, but becomes more and more spiritual just because of this physical decline. Let us learn to say frankly, yes, the earth is in its decline, and human life too, in respect of its physical manifestation. But just because it is so, let us muster the strength to draw into our civilization that element which, springing from mankind itself, will live on while the earth is in decline, as the immortal fruit of earth evolution. And now you know the words of John the Baptist that we celebrate at St. John's time. He must increase and I must decrease. To successfully navigate our time, we need to recognize Ahriman not only in our own thoughts, but also and especially in our will. We must overcome our desire for a life of ease. Although Lucifer will try to prevent us, Steiner entreated spiritual scientists, quote, to boldly dive down into Ahriman's sphere in order to attain our cosmic goals. There we must go, for there are some gifts that we must wrest from Ahriman that we'll need for building Jupiter. Then we can come to stand above his spheres as the Archangel Michael demonstrates for us now. There shines the importance of the philosophy of freedom for our times. When Steiner published this book, he wrote these words about its significance. The grip of Ahriman has been broken. And here we must ask, what takes place now that there is always something of the Christ light in human ether bodies? What occurs in that part of the ether body in which the Christ light has been received? What is it, in short, that gradually permeates the etheric body as a result of the Christ impulse? It is the possibility that was given at that time as an effect of the Christ light for something new to appear, something living and breathing and immortal, something that can never perish in death. While on earth, we are still misled by the illusion image of death. This new factor will nevertheless be rescued from death, will have no part in it. Ever since the mystery of Golgotha, the human etheric body has held something that is not subject to death, to the death forces of the earth. And this something does not die with the rest. That which we gradually achieve through the influence of the Christ impulse then streams out into cosmic space, and in proportion to its intensity in each of us, it generates a certain force that flows out into cosmic space. And this force will in turn create a sphere around our earth that is in the process of becoming a sun. A sort of spiritual sphere is forming around the earth, composed of the etheric bodies that have come alive. The Christ light now radiates from the earth, but there is also a kind of reflection of it that encircles the earth. Here is what is reflected as the Christ light, appearing as a consequence of the Christ event. This is what Christ called the Holy Spirit. For what purpose did Heracles do these 12 labors? It was in order to free Prometheus, who is us, from being chained to the lifeless kingdom by the god of technology, Hephaestus, who had been so commanded by Zeus because we had been given fire. By successfully completing these 12 labors, Heracles gained the wisdom of the zodiacal gods, wisdom expressed in the etheric realm. If you want to become free of your chains, it will take a great effort. 10 days after ascension, when tongues of fire descended upon the heads of the assembled disciples, they were moved to speak with other tongues. This actually means that the disciples were able to impart the secrets of the deed of Golgotha to the heart of every human being, irrespective of religion or creed. Part of these secrets were revealed with Christ's ascension. Before our etheric body had the urge to fly off to its home in the sun, it begins this return process as soon as we die. But today, our etheric body must loosen from the physical. The secret revealed at Whitsun is that with the mystery of Golgotha, Christ united himself with the earth. And so now our etheric body is drawn to remain with the earth. From ascension to Whitsun, the disciples withdrew into deep contemplation. For in their awakened souls is the knowledge that through the mystery of Golgotha, complete provision was made for the physical, etheric nature of mankind as a whole. But they wonder what happens to our soul and spirit. Whence does man acquire the power to receive the Christ impulse into his nature of soul and spirit, into his astral body and ego? The answer came at Whitsun with the sending of the Holy Spirit. In order that each human individual may be able to understand the deed of Christ, the Holy Spirit was sent. Through the Spirit, each individual may learn to experience the Christ mystery inwardly in spirit and in soul. Thus, these two pictures stand side by side in the history of the evolution of humanity. Ascension tells us the deed on Golgotha was fulfilled for the physical body and the etheric body in the universal human sense, while Whitsun tells us the single human being must make this deed bear fruit in himself by receiving the Holy Spirit. Thereby, the Christ impulse becomes individual in each human being. So we find here a kind of reversal. The etheric has been our connection to race, to nation, and family, while the physical has been that which made us unique and separate. These are now to become the universal in us, while what we develop out of love will be individual, the free individual spirit within the spiritual body of Christ. And a very short note about today's festival. St. John's Festival mood is the starting point for he must increase, I must decrease. What does this mean for us? We must move on from our physical existence towards our ascension and a conscious life where our etheric body is our lowest bodily member. Today's festival is about the future of Earth and mankind. The future must be quite different from what one experienced in a prior incarnation. The Earth and mankind are necessarily in old age for our evolution in the physical realm. What we face with robotics and AI are double-edged swords, while necessary for our future evolution. Christ in the etheric is the event that allows for us to face robotics, AI, and the incarnation of Ahriman. Just as the lesser guardian of the threshold is there to show us what we need to overcome before crossing the threshold, so do robotics and AI act similarly in our course of evolution. Robotics, they're the imitation of the physical, but with no life, no etheric. AI, it's the imitation of the soul, with no spirit, no ego. It will not be good enough to merely believe in these things. We need great inner strength to overcome Ahriman and our Ahrimanic double, overcome them within us so that we can develop the consciousness soul and an awareness of the etheric realm. And with that, I'd like to open this all up to your questions.